Yo, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another video. So today the topic is I'm 26 years old and I love to cook. So 26 years old, by this time I'd imagine that some of you have at least cooked your own meal. Which when I define a meal, that could be macaroni and cheese. That could be a hot dog, right? A meal is a meal at the end of the day. But what I love about cooking is how creative you get to be, and also when you make food, there is a satisfaction, and also eating with other people when you cook. There's just a great feeling about that togetherness that comes from making a meal in a place. Everyone's gathered around that anticipation of when you're going to end up eating. So, I'm not a professional chef by any means. I used to joke with my mom, my brother, that I was a little chef. It was a joke that we had from Ratatouille that there was, the rat Remy who would cook. And I always wanted to be a chef after I saw that movie because I really liked all of the animations of cooking. I loved the way that Pixar was really able to display the foods being mixed together and how the way of describing smell, which I know is very hard to do sometimes. But I always had a really genuine interest for cooking as well as baking, but cooking to me was always more interesting. I would say probably once I turned maybe 21, 22, is when I started like actually wanting to cook my own meals, and cooking things, that weren't anything fancy, but stuff that I felt like I'd at least want to try. So I would try stuff like making buffalo chicken and doing like grilled chicken versions of buffalo chicken, which already is making me super hungry. Or I would, try to make rice, like these basic things, right? But you got to start somewhere. And as I kept going, I was learning a lot more about seasoning. And I'm very grateful to have grown up with parents that are from different places. One, I have a dad that grew up with a lot of Greek family. I have a mom that grew up with French and Hispanic, Puerto Rican family. So a lot of that culture really adds a lot of spice, a lot of flavor. And so I grew up with a lot of that. So in my house, there are many, many different spices that I like to add on to my food. And that's the creativity part that I really enjoy about cooking is even just the spices. If you think about all the combinations that you can, add with spices, it's incredible. It reminds me of painting. You have a blank canvas and all of these colors, and when you add them all together, you can have something that's very complex, or you have something that maybe you add salt and pepper and garlic powder, and it becomes a completely different dish. So I really love that aspect of it. Now, am I thinking about all this when I'm cooking? No, but I do like the fact that there is that creativity aspect with cooking. Now, the direction that I originally took when I started out was I would get chicken from the grocery store. It would either be chicken breast, and I would bring it home and I would, try to season it. So sometimes I would season it before I put it on the pan, or other times I would heat up the pan, put some oil, and then I would put the chicken, and then I would season. And trying all these different things was enjoyable for me. And what I'm getting at is that with cooking, I feel like a lot of it is making mistakes and learning from those mistakes and how to be better with it. Because I've completely ruined dishes before that I've made for myself. And I think you can't really be super disappointed. I think if you do, then that's just not going to be a good scenario. But I've definitely overcooked chicken. I've undercooked chicken, and even other meats as well. Just undercooking, I think, is typically more common than overcooking, if I'm being honest. But that was a big learning thing. And then sometimes over seasoning and sometimes under seasoning. I think most people typically under season things, but I don't know if I've ever really over seasoned something, if I'm being completely honest with you. But what I'm sort of getting at with this whole thing is that when you're kind of in your later 20s, it's like you're preparing to then eventually start cooking for a family if that ends up being your goal. And if not, if you're just going to end up doing takeout all the time, it's going to be a lot of money. Now, the thing is, if you're 26 years old, cooking is a really good skill to have. And cooking is a skill that I think everyone should be able to have. And you should at least be able, in my opinion, to make like 3 or 4 solid dishes that, regardless of the day, the time that you decide to cook it, it is going to be really, really enjoyable. Something for me that I've found that is really good, and I personally think I make it very, very well, is tacos. I think I make a very, very good taco. I just think I understand it. I grew up eating it, as I've mentioned, from where my family's from. Um, and that's something that I really enjoy making. Another thing is also beef stew. I really love making beef stew. That's something that is super delicious, just incredible. I do like to make like different curry chicken, even though Natalie is not a huge fan of spicy things, but um, that creativity that comes with it. And I think what is also nice about it is it's almost a sense of accomplishment when you're able to make a dish that you would have probably only thought you could ever get at a takeout place, right? And a lot of these dishes that we end up eating that are from these takeout restaurants originally started with people just experimenting and trying different things. And I really like that feeling and getting to learn more about cutting vegetables, or, the certain amount of time and what to look for when you're cooking. So back to my point about the skill of being able to cook. Let's say you're a single person in your mid late 20s, and you go on a date and you're talking, and the date goes well. The next date, let's just say, things keep going well, blah blah blah. Third date, fourth date. Say by the fifth date, you invite your partner to, let's say, maybe your house, or you go to their house, and they ask you, do you know how to cook, right? And thing about that question is, you can't really, I mean, you could lie, but the thing is, like, if you really know how to cook, that's a very impressive thing, and that's a great quality to have. I think every relationship, at least one person needs to know how to cook. But if you're especially a male that knows how to cook, that's a great thing that your partner is going to be able to see. Not only are you able to provide for them in that kind of way, but also that shows that you're self-sufficient in that kind of way. You don't just rely on like ordering takeout every single day. And so that's really important. I think to have that skill set and to be able to at least cook like 4 things that you do really well, I think is really impressive. And I wish more people considered doing that more frequently. It's also very budget friendly as well. That's also something that I wanted to touch on too, is like, I know grocery prices are crazy right now, but when you know how to cook and you know how to cook efficiently, and you can have leftovers for a day or two after, you're saving yourself a lot more money than doing takeout, doing lunch here and there all the time. So that's always a really big thing as well. But I just think, start cooking. Just try something. And what I always recommend is going on YouTube. YouTube, I think, is like, if I was to look at our generation and be like, what was one of the best things that ever was created, I personally think YouTube was by far like one of the best things that was ever made. Purely for the fact of how quickly you can learn something from YouTube by watching a video. There are so many just teachings and channels that specifically show you how to cook, let's say, a beef Wellington. Like, you could legitimately make a beef Wellington at your house by following the directions on YouTube, which is incredible. It's not like a piece of paper where there's going to be ingredients that maybe you miss, or like the steps that you thought you were following aren't actually correct. When you watch it on YouTube and it's a good video, you can cook some amazing things. And that's what I've done personally. And I found that it's worked really well from me just, watching the video first, seeing the ingredients that are needed, going to the store, getting those ingredients, and then following that each step of the way, and also adding your own spin to it. and then being able to eat that, and it's like, nice. I just watched a video that taught me a skill, and now I'm able to make that same thing again. And so that's what I highly recommend. So whatever the food may be, and try to cook things that you enjoy. Like, I think some people are like, oh, I'm going to make this duck, this French duck. It's like, no, just cook something that you would want to actually eat, something that you normally would go out and buy at a store. If, let's say you're into Indian food and you like chicken tikka masala, then learning how to make chicken tikka masala on YouTube. Or if you want to learn how to make a really good cheeseburger, like, find things that you enjoy cooking or things that you enjoy eating and try to cook it. And I'm telling you, it is such a good skill to have. I love learning new things, new ways of cooking, different seasonings that go into things, different techniques. It's something that interests me so much. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please, I hope anyone who watches this all the way through, please try something, cooking something. Comment down below, what have you cooked, or what are you going to cook after watching this video? I would love to hear that. Thank you so much again. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out. Bye.